was supposed to be just another family dinner, a simple gathering that would allow us to reconnect, laugh, and eat good food. Instead, it became the moment that changed everything, the kind of moment that defined who I was going to become. I remember walking into the house, the smell of roast chicken and freshly baked bread hitting me immediately, trying to mask the underlying tension in the air. The smiles were too forced, the laughs too loud. My family's facade was beginning to crack, and I could feel it. The stares, the hushed comments, the subtle glances. They didn't have to say anything for me to know what they were thinking. They were judging me, once again. The truth was clear. I had always been the odd one out. I was the dreamer, the rebel, the person who refused to follow the traditional path that my parents, my siblings had followed. And with every year that passed, it seemed like I was only becoming more of an outsider. But this time, I had something to show for it. I had something to prove to myself. And that evening, I wasn't going to let their hurtful words hold me back anymore. I had spent so much of my life craving their approval, letting their judgments define me. But now, I was different. I had learned how to stand on my own, and I was about to give them the biggest surprise of their lives. Growing up in my family was always a delicate dance of expectations. My parents had a clear picture of what success looked like: money, stability, traditional careers. They were proud of my older brother and sister who followed those paths perfectly. They had solid jobs, families, and the approval of everyone around them. But for me, things were different. From the beginning, I was the one who dreamed of more. More than just a steady job, more than just a life that was dictated by rules. I wanted something else. I wanted to create. To express myself in a way that no one in my family understood. I knew early on that art was my calling, but when I told my parents, they were less than enthusiastic. My mother in particular always tried to steer me toward business. Something practical, something secure. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant for something different. So, I made a decision that would tear my family apart. I left the family business behind to pursue art full-time. The betrayal wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, like a slow poison. My family's disappointment was palpable, even though they never said a word. They simply stopped acknowledging my passion, stopped asking about my progress, and soon stopped including me in their conversations. The rejection wasn't just in their silence. It was in the way they started to talk about me when I wasn't around. They'd say things like, "She'll come back to her senses soon enough," or "She's wasting her potential." That's when I realized this wasn't just about career choices. It was about them never seeing me for who I truly was. So I withdrew even further. Over the years, I built my career slowly. Art galleries and exhibitions were hard to come by, and the constant pressure to prove myself made everything feel like an uphill battle. But every rejection I faced, every setback, only made me more determined. My art was my escape, my sanctuary, and it was the only thing that ever truly made me feel seen. But despite that, a part of me still longed for the approval I had been denied all my life. Then, out of nowhere, I got an invitation, a family dinner, a chance to show up, to make them see me, to finally prove that I wasn't a failure. But deep down, I was scared. I was scared of their judgment. I was scared that no matter what I had achieved, it wouldn't be enough. Yet I knew that if I didn't go, I would never forgive myself. The night of the dinner, I found myself staring at the family portrait on the wall. The one where we all smiled in our best clothes, looking perfect for the world to see. But the smile on my face in that picture was forced, just like the one I would have to wear tonight. But I was different now. I had learnt to stop pretending, to stop fitting myself into a box that wasn't meant for me. In the years since I had walked away from their expectations, I had discovered my own path. I wasn't the confused young adult they once knew. I had become a successful artist. But more importantly, I had become someone who valued her own happiness above all else. During those years, I had surrounded myself with people who understood me. I found friends and mentors who believed in me, even when my family didn't. They became my new support system, my new family. With them, I learned that my worth was not tied to anyone's approval but my own, and slowly, I began to feel that power growing inside me. I was learning to love myself not because of what others thought of me, but because of who I had become. Still, there were moments of weakness. When I received an award for my art or had a piece featured in a well-known gallery, the first thought that came to mind was, I wish my parents could see this. But that feeling didn't last long. I realized that my achievements weren't for them anymore. They were for me. And so I found myself standing outside the door to my parents' house, my hand resting on the doorknob. Inside, I could already hear the familiar sounds of family chatter, and yet, for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to impress anyone. I had done it all on my own. When I walked into that dining room, everything seemed to freeze. My family turned to look at me, their faces a mixture of surprise and confusion. I could hear the familiar whispers behind my back, the ones I had once been afraid of. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I was calm. The dinner was awkward, as I expected, and their questions came in quick succession. How's the art thing going? Still wasting your time with that? Their words stung, but I refused to let them see how much it hurt. I was ready. I'm not here to explain myself or apologize anymore, I said, my voice steady but full of conviction. I'm doing exactly what I love, and I'm succeeding. You might not understand it, but I've learned to stop waiting for you to approve of me. My father snorted dismissively, his eyes narrowing. What exactly are you succeeding at? Playing around with colours? I felt the rage bubbling up, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I met his gaze directly. Yes, playing with colours, but more than that. I'm building a life based on something I believe in, something that makes me happy. I'm successful in my own right, and I don't need your validation to know that. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother, who had always been the mediator, stared at me in disbelief. My siblings, usually so quick to criticize, were speechless for the first time. It was then that I realized I didn't need their approval, not anymore. I had done it for myself, and that was all that mattered. The conversation dwindled after that, and I knew that nothing more would come of it. But I had made my point, and I had finally confronted the fear that had held me back for so long. The aftermath of the dinner wasn't what I expected. There was no apology, no grand gesture of understanding from my family. But in the silence that followed, I realized something profound. It didn't matter. The months that followed were peaceful. I continued to thrive in my career, and I even found a sense of peace in my personal life. I had no illusions about my family. They may never truly understand me, but I had come to accept that. What mattered was this. I had faced my biggest fear, the fear of rejection, and had emerged stronger, more certain of who I was. I had stopped letting my family's opinions dictate my life. I had learned to live for myself, not for others. Now, every time I stand in front of my easel creating something new, I think about that dinner. And I smile because I know that I no longer need to prove myself to anyone. The real victory wasn't in my career or the recognition I received. It was in learning to stand on my own 2 feet, to believe in my worth without anyone's approval. And if there's one lesson I can pass on, it's this. Your worth is not defined by anyone else's standards, especially not by your family's. Stand up for yourself, keep moving forward, and never let anyone take away your belief in who you are.